Brahmachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnu Pad Paramamsa Privitacharya Sarvata Dashi Śrīmad Little Vishnam is Divine Grace Shilabhaya Charanara and the Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj ISKCON's BBD founder Acharya Jagaguru Bhadita Bhavana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jaya Om Vishnu Pad Paramamsa Privitacharya Astu Tarata Dashi Śrīmad Nitya Lila Vishnam is Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Guru Parampara Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Prem Se Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Radha Govinda Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Nama Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Nama Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Nama Ki Jai Gangamaya Munmaya Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Yugadharma Harinam Sankirtan Yagna Ki Jai Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Canto 2 The Cosmic Manifestation Chapter number 7 Scheduled Incarnations. Verse 53. Mayam Varnayato Musa Ishvarasya Anumodata Śrīmvata Shradhaya Nityam Mayaya Atma Na Muyati Mayam Varnayato Musya Ishvarasyanu Modata Śrīmvata Shradhaya Nityam Maya Yatma Namuyati Mayam Varnayato Musya Ishvarasyanu Modata Śrīmvata Shradhaya Nityam
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Śrādhaya Nityam
Maya Yatma Namuyati Mayam Vanayato Musya
Mayam Vanayato Musya
Ishvarasyanu Modataha
Ishvarasyam Modataha
Shrinvata Shradaya Nityam
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Śrādhaya Nityam
Maya Yatma Namuyati.
Ishvarasya anumudataha Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Śrādhaya Nityam Maya Yatma Namudati Maya Varnato Musya Ishvarasya anumudataha Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Śrādhaya Nityam Maya Yatma Namudati Mayam Varnato Musya Israyas Anumudataha Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Nityam Maya Yatma Namudati
Mayam, affairs of the external energy. Varnayata, while describing. Amusya, of the Lord. Ishvarasya, of the personality of Godhead. Anumodataha, thus appreciating. Śrīmvata, thus hearing. Śrādhaya, with devotion. Nityam, regularly. Mayaya, by the illusory energy. Atma, the living entity. Na, never. Muyati, becomes illusioned. The Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. Please repeat. The Lord's activities in association with his different energies.
The Lord's activities in association with his different energies
should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, One is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord.
One is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord.
Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The science of learning a subject matter seriously is different from the sentiment of fanatics. Fanatics or fools may consider the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy to be useless for them, and they may falsely claim to be higher participants in the internal energy of the Lord. But factually, the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy and the internal energy are equally good. On the other hand, those who are not completely free from the clutches of the Lord's external energy should devoutly hear regularly about the activities of the Lord's external energy. Should hear regularly about the activities of the Lord in relation with the external energy. They should not foolishly jump up to the activities of the internal energy, falsely attracted by the Lord's internal potential activities like His Rasa Leela. The cheap reciters of the Bhagavatam are very much enthusiastic about the Lord's internal potential activities, and the pseudo-devotees absorbed in material sense enjoyment falsely jump to the stage of liberated souls and thus fall down deeply into the clutches of external energy. Some of them think to hear about the pastimes of the Lord means to hear about His activities with the gopis, or about His pastimes like lifting the Govardhan hill, and they have nothing to do with the Lord's plenary expansions as the Purusha avatars and their pastimes of the creation, maintenance, or annihilation of the material worlds. But a pure devotee knows that there is no difference between the pastimes of the Lord either in Rasa Leela or in creation, maintenance, or destruction of the material world. Rather, the descriptions of such activities of the Lord as the Purusha avatars are specifically meant for persons who are in the clutches of the external energy. Topics like the Rasa Leela are meant for the conditioned souls, meant for the liberated souls, and not for the conditioned souls. The conditioned souls, therefore, must hear with appreciation and devotion the Lord's pastimes in relationship with the external energy, and such acts are as good as the hearing of Rasa Leela in the liberated stage. A conditioned soul should not imitate the activities of liberated souls. Lord Sri Chaitanya never indulged in hearing the Rasa Leela with ordinary men. In the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Science of God, the first 9 cantos prepare the ground for hearing the 10th canto. This will be further explained in the last chapter of this canto. In the 3rd canto, it will be more explicit. A pure devotee of the Lord, therefore, must begin reading or hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from the very beginning, and not from the 10th canto. We have several times been requested by some so-called devotees to take up the 10th canto immediately, but we have refrained from such an action because we wish to present Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as the science of Godhead and not as a sensuous understanding for the conditioned souls. This is forbidden by such authorities as Sri Brahmaji. By reading and hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as a scientific presentation, the conditioned souls will gradually be promoted to the higher status of transcendental knowledge after being freed from the illusory energy based on sense enjoyment. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 2nd canto, 7th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadam Mayam Dadati Svapanantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Marijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vichamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surto Pangur Mama Mandamatergati Matsar Vasva Panambo Jo Radha Madana Mohano Dibyad Bindaranya Kalpadrumada Shrimad Ratnagara Sringasanasto Shrimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prastalabi Savyamano Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambi Bamsi Bhattatastita Karshan Venu Svanar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mayam Vanayato Musya Ishvarasya Numodataha Shrinvata Shradaya Nityam Maya Yatma Namuyati. The Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. So, Lord Brahma has completed his summary observation of the Lord's different incarnations, avatars. And he's also saying that he has explained in brief how the Lord, who is the creator of the manifested worlds, who is, and without him there are no other causes of the phenomenal and nominal existences. And going forward, he's instructing Narada, this is verse 51 famous, Idam Bhagavatam Nama Yan Me Bhagavatoditam Sangraho Yam Vibhuti Nam Tvam Etad Vipuli Karu. O Narada, this science of God, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. So this is the principle of disciplic succession. And that's, today's purport is very strong and cautionary, coming again and again from many different punches Prabhupada is taking at the Prakrita Sahajya, the pseudo-devotee, the cheap devotee, not understanding how great is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is saying the principle of disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, to Narada, to Vyasa, to Shukadeva Goswami, to Sutta Goswami. The ripened fruit of the Vedic tree drops from one hand to another without being broken by falling suddenly from a high branch down to the earth. The guy, it's in your hand. You'd ever have that up, and like up in a tree or something, and you're like handing something down to the next guy, and it's like, hey, you can take it real careful. Or what is that thing that they do on the mountain, rappelling, with the carabiners and the hooks and the, what's that called? It's called useless risk-taking, right? Anyway, yeah, we know. So so in a sense, this is it could be dangerous activity if not done expertly. You could fall out of the tree. So accepting the role of spiritual master, an actual representative of the Vedas, And if it's not done with extreme caution at all times, no matter how expert you are, if you're like climbing, El Capitan in Yosemite, which is a sheer rock face, then, you let your guard down for even a second, even you're the most experienced person doing it, within just a few seconds, you're dead on the ground. Therefore, unless one hears the science of Godhead from the bona fide representative of the disciplic succession, as above mentioned, for one to understand the theme of the science of Godhead will be a very difficult job. It should never be heard from the professional Bhagavatam reciters who earn their livelihood by gratifying the senses of the audience. Prabhupada says in another place, ridiculously greedy fellows. So the symptom of one who can actually participate in understanding the Lord's internal energies is that they are akinchana. They are completely finished with the false attempt to try to enjoy in this material world. In another place, Prabhupada describes Lord Chaitanya was very strict sannyasi in regards to women. He would never let women come near him. He would never joke with women. And why would he, such a renounced personality, participate in hearing from Ramananda Roy and discussing with his associates the loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna after retiring completely from worldly life? Why would he participate? Please describe the science of Godhead with determination and in a manner in which it will be quite possible for the human being to develop transcendental devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. So the Mayavad and the Prakriti Sahajya, because they accept that the body of the Lord is something material, and in the material world it's like being thrown into a mine of salt. Everywhere you go, it's salty. Another example is given of the cow who had the traumatic experience of being tethered in a barn that lit on fire and just escaped with her life. So whenever the cow sees red, color red, immediately freaks out because of fire. So this material world is, it's a shackle of sex life. Everyone is shackled. Everyone is miraculous shackled because you think it under illusion. That's one of the aspects of the illusory energy. First you're thrown illusion, you're thrown in jail, and then you're covered to think it's very nice. An extreme example is Indra, who's the king of the heavenly planets. How much facility can he have for sensual enjoyment? In fact, he's in charge of some of the most beautiful society, heavenly women in the entire universe. They accept his direction. So he's cursed because of his sexual promiscuity in one situation to become a hog on this earth planet. And when the time for the curse was over, he's being called back by Lord Brahma himself. Indra's the king of heaven. He's got important, along with enjoying sensual gratification and beautiful women, he also has some important duties in terms of universal management. And, they tried to fill the gap and it didn't work. They were wanting him to come back. But he had become so attached to being a pig, living in a filthy place, eating stool, indiscriminate sex with mother, sister, daughter, no matter what. If it's a female pig, let's go, No, sir, how can I go back to the heavenly planets? I have my duties, I have my responsibilities, I have my piggy wiggies and my piglets, and horrible. No matter what body What does it say in the Bhagavad Gita? That if one is put in a high-speed car, one will go faster than someone in a lower car. The driver might be the same, right? Like they take you out to the rental car lot, especially if you go to like Rent-A-Wreck or something. I don't know if that company is still in business. And well, you want to go in this one? I don't think so. You're choosing, but the body is, and probably use the word awarded, but it's actually forced upon you. Protesting will not help. And whatever body that you're in, whatever car that you're in, you have to go at the speed and the variant luxury or lack of it therein, whatever that vehicle is. And you're in a position to think that the opposite sex in that species of life is the be-all and end-all of attraction. You will not be attracted to the female in another species of life, no matter how ugly, whether it be a hog or a platypus, a baboon, a crocodile, female, it's female. This is Maya. So these instructions by Rāma to Narada on how to explain the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and then this benediction, that this is actually what Brahma is speaking here is a benedictory, it's a blessing, it's a revelation of how to achieve great fruit, falshruti. If the Lord's activities in accordance with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. This is interesting. Teachings of the Supreme Lord. What is the number one teaching of the Supreme Lord in the Bhagavad Gita? Sarva dharma parityajya. I've told you so many things, but this is the concluding and essence of all instruction. Just give up all other dharmas and simply surrender unto me. One who completely surrenders 100% is awarded full and complete pure devotional service, and his liberation from this material world is guaranteed therein. This is the ultimate of all instruction. To being a pure, unalloyed devotee of the Supreme Lord is the highest attainment of life. So if this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. What we were hearing, that the illusory energy is ashamed to exhibit herself before the Lord and his transcendental devotees, because reality extinguished from illusion for the welfare of all, the Supreme Lord, he exists in his own energy, internal, pleasure-giving energy, which is completely based on absolute truth and complete, perfect reality. No illusion at all. Everything is substantive and everything is meaningful. Tending the cows with the millions of purpose trees. Everything has purpose, right? In the material world, the so-called beat poets and so-called avant-garde artists, they always arrive at some conclusion of, nothing really matters. It's all meaningless. Whatever you like, you do, and it's just, they don't come to a proper conclusion. And then there's so-called fanciful and so-called imagined artistic speculations and interpretations and musings are taken to be some type of revelation. Their hallucinations are sometimes taken to be spiritual realization. So Prabhupada begins his very powerful purport. The science of learning a subject matter seriously is different from the sentiments of fanatics What's the dictionary definition of fanatic? And Prabhupada, yeah.
A person filled with excessive and single-minded zeal, especially for extreme religious or political cause.
Right.
Extremist, militant, dogmatist.
Right. And I think a very, modern colloquial saying that will go along with such a position would be my way or the highway, or my way or no way. So they won't be in a position to understand broad-reaching implications and see things from different angles of vision. They can only see it their way. And Prabhupada also, he gives his corollary definition or near definition of the fanatic by calling him a fool. So if you are so narrow-minded and you take such a position and you purposely prevent yourself from having more diversified and variegated absolute knowledge in your purview because of your dog-like mentality to stick to the fanaticism, then you're a fool also. Foolish. I think in the definition of foolish means there's something, lacking knowledge. You're a fool because you're stupid, because you don't know what you're doing. So such fanatics and fools may consider the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy to be useless for them, and they may falsely claim to be higher participants in the internal energy of the Lord. But factually, the Lord's activities in relation with the external energy and the internal energy are equally good. And what to speak of even within the realm of Braja Rasa, the primary rasas of neutrality, servitude, of friendship, of parental and conjugal, lover and beloved. There was what has come to be known as the Gopi Bhava Club. This is being that some of Prabhupada's initiated disciples, not outside deviant Sahaja yoga groups or something, and they had developed the idea that the Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, they're the topmost pastimes, and because they are the source of romantic love between young men and young women, that we have such experience in this world, just like the cow and sees red and immediately thinks, oh, this is a fire. So, because we're not purified, we see Radha and Krishna, or hear the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis, Krishna kissing the gopis, Krishna embracing the gopis, etc., etc. We immediately compare it to our own experience of such things between ordinary men and women of this world. Ordinary in the sense that they're bewildered spirit souls in external material yantras or machines, and even the minutest thing, like for me to do this, there's a demigod who controls it. Everything is completely controlled. There's no individual freedom as the spiritual body in the realm of pure devotional service and sambandha, reciprocation with Brajendranandana Krishna facilitates. But we mistake this illusion created by the external energy of so-called love in the material world because of our own envy of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer and our own foolish and useless attempt to try to become the enjoyer ourselves. And so therefore when we see in such a unpure condition of life the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, we think, oh yes, I know what this is. And actually, instead of becoming, Prabhupada, he said to the Gopi Baba Club, but Prabhupada, they think they're becoming purified. He said, they're not becoming purified, they're becoming putrefied. Means they're becoming, what does putrefied mean? Putrefied is, they become rotten. You have to throw it out, it's finished, Like if you leave something in the refrigerator too long, oh, this looks really nice, I want to stash this and save this. I don't want the others to get this, really nice Rāma Rāya burfi, I'm going to try to hide it.
In an advanced state of decomposition and having foul odor. That's
right. And then, you forgot about it for like a month and a half, and then, the bad smell starts to overwhelm the room that we're all living in, and we have to find the source of the stench, and get rid of it. So, if we are not elevated in our consciousness, then it's very much dangerous to hear of the Lord's conjugal pastimes with Radharani and the gopis, because we'll think of it in terms of the experience of boys and girls, young men and women in this world. And that is the greatest stumbling block. That is actually the greatest enemy for the advancing devotee, is to equate the sexual activity of this world and try to compare it materially to hearing about the Lord's Rasa Leela dance and pastimes with the gopis. Those who are not completely free from the clutches of the Lord's external energy should devoutly hear regularly about the activities of the Lord with the external energy. They should not foolishly jump up to the activities of the internal energy, falsely attracted by the Lord's internal potential activities like his Rasa Leela. The cheap reciters of the Bhagavatam are very much enthusiastic about the Lord's internal potential activities, and the pseudo-devotees absorbed in material sense enjoyment falsely jump to the stage of liberated souls and thus fall down deeply into the clutches of external energy. So we have to be very, very careful in this Krishna consciousness movement to not allow Sahajiyaism, which is ultimately based on Mayavad influence, interpretation, Mayavad philosophy, to contaminate the very pure and powerful link or current of connection that's been offered to us in this most authorized disciplic succession, and especially within the chain of disciplic succession. I mean, all of the spiritual masters are exalted and special, unique in their own individual way. Yet what Srila Prabhupada has done in relationship to his discipleship to his divine grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as he said in his 1936 Vyas Puja homage, miracle done but in new dress, that is your divine grace. That it is the very carefully taken down from the branches of the topmost place in Goloka Vrindavan and placed in this world, in this time of Kali Yuga, this time of atheism, this time of when Prabhupada came, one of the sayings was, along with do your own thing, don't trust anyone over 30, power to the people, love is all you need. And equally bandied about was the saying, God is dead. And obviously that East Village other, the way that the person wrote the article, in the place where they say God is dead, a man, 70, 70 years old, walked into the East Village and decided to, convince the world's toughest audience, right? Like in the East Village, everybody's all like, thinks they're so cool, and right? Same exact thing 55 years ago, but just whatever. Instead of wearing Vans warped sneakers, they were wearing something else, whatever. They didn't have iPods that maybe they had, they could put a dime in a telephone booth, But the essence of false ego was the same. And it's the same in all places and times and societies. There's always going to be a class of people who think that they're really cool and they know better, based on simply their own imagined idea that their body and mind are cooler or better than somebody else's. Some of them think that to hear about the pastimes of the Lord means to hear about his activities with the gopis or about his pastimes like lifting the Govardhan hill. They have nothing to do with the Lord's plenary expansions as the Purusha avatars and their pastimes of the creation, maintenance, or annihilation of the material worlds. But a pure devotee knows that there is no difference between the pastimes of the Lord either in Rasa Lila or in creation, maintenance, or destruction of the material world. Now, these Purusha avatars, Krishna is expanding himself to create this phenomenal world for the purpose of facilitating the desires of his part and parcels who desire to enjoy separate from him. So, if we're a little introspective, we can understand that the mood of these incarnations, it's somewhat regretful that they have to do this. It's not that the government wants to make a prison department. It's kind of with regret, but at the same time, it's a necessity. And to meditate, which is an important recommendation, and it is a great joy for us, is to understand the dual significance and correlation between the identities and activities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Panchatattva, and their associates, and who they are in Krishna Leela. Who is Advaita Acharya? He is Mahavishnu himself. And all of the different Purusha avatars expanding from Lord Vishnu, such as Sankarshan, Balaram, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, etc., etc. They've all come in Lord Chaitanya's Leela. And what is the mainstay of Lord Chaitanya's Leela? Sankirtan, Sankirtan Yagna. What is Sankirtan? It is congregational chanting of the holy names of Radha and Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is the manifestation of Goloka Vrindavan Dham. Golokera Premadana, Hari Nama Sankirtan. And by this distribution of Harinam Sankirtan, the holy name of Krishna, it is the distribution of the topmost facility of love and reciprocation, Braja Prema Bhakti, within the realm of Goloka Vrindavan. When one chants the holy name, one is with Krishna in Vrindavan, and Krishna and Vrindavan are with you, the pure chanter. There's no difference. So the movement of pure devotees chanting the holy name all over the world can envelop the entire world like a tsunami. What is it? Lord Nityananda, he cut a canal from the ocean of love of Godhead, and it flooded this entire world. So I will add, and I don't think I'm wrong here, that along with hearing about the Lord's activities in relation to the material energy, this is done within the life of a missionary on behalf of the pure devotee, spiritual master in the cyclic succession, who are all missionaries all the way down the line. That is the, we were hearing of Advaita Acharya. What is an Acharya? An Acharya definition is one who's concerned to uplift the fallen conditioned souls. This was Advaita Acharya. He saw the world devoid of devotional service, people engaged in fruitive activities and inconclusive mental speculation. And he was very, very sorry. And he himself thought he's Mahavishnu, that he cannot reclaim them. Only Krishna must come. Then is it possible. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes on the call of Advaita Acharya. Then later in the Antya Leela, of course, Advaita Acharya, he's one of the Navadvip devotees, Shantipur, and coming for the 4 months of the rainy season, but for 8 months of the year he's not there. A message was given to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tell Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is acting like a madman, that rice is no longer in demand in the marketplace. Lord, tell, what is the rest? That Lord Chaitanya was acting like a madman, that we are now acting mad too. There's Damodar Pandit, who was sent there as kind of like a penance for, presumptuously trying to instruct Lord Chaitanya in his affairs. Said, you are very strict, Damodar Pandit. You should go to Navadvip and watch over my mother. So anyway, upon coming back, he was given this message by Advaita Acharya, and Damodar Pandit thought it's just a merry message, and ha ha ha. But Lord Chaitanya, he said, that is his order, and fell silent. The mood from light and levity and jovial, just immediately, Lord Chaitanya became extremely serious. Swarup Damodar was the only one who understood, and he became morose. And who was it? I don't know. Lord Chaitanya was asked, what is the meaning of this sonnet? He said, Advaita Acharya is a great follower of the Smriti Shastras and an expert knower of Vedic sacrifices. He calls the deity for some time and then sends the deity away. I do not know what is in Advaita Acharya's mind. From that day on, Lord Chaitanya's mood of separation in the feelings of Srimati Radharani for Krishna doubled in intensity. And now his affairs in the evening were wild, insane performances. He was escaping from the Gambhira, having to be found, rescuing the Lord from the sea. He fell into a fisherman's net. So that same Advaita Acharya, by this, he called the Lord to come down, and when the Lord's mission was complete, inundating the world with the Sankirtan movement and establishing the Yuga Dharma for this age, which say, okay, you've done what you need to do, mission complete. And we call the deity if we make a deity out of earth, and then when it's done, we're not going to we're going to go on our way, we're a mendicant, we're traveling, we're not going to just leave the deity there, we're going to, okay, the earth can remain, but the deity, you go back to the spiritual world. So powerful. So we see at the 6 Goswamis, Prabhupada said, you want to know what it means to be in the renounced order of life, what it means to be a Goswami, then you chant the Sad Goswami Astakam. They are absorbed in the mood of the gopis, and what does that? And what is the parallel line of that, engaging in missionary activities meant to deliver all the conditioned souls in the material universe. You see the bewildered souls in male and female bodies engaging in sense gratification in various stages of the sexual ritual mating. Very, very selfish. No concern for others. And we see how, in a so-called hip and mod city like New York, like going out all dressed up and like a night on the town, and and if there's some like poor homeless person, practically dying on the street, they'll practically step on his head or make a joke at his expense, and their minds are just so absorbed in envy and anger and false pride that, they're judging, I'm more beautiful than you, than these other people who are, it's a horrible mentality. No compassion. It's like sex desire and sex attraction completely destroys your ability to have empathy for others. That's why it's the opposite. Whereas the love of Krishna for the gopis is the most brilliant exhibition of compassion. And actually the reward of hearing from the right source and being a disciple, and disciplining yourself, and engaged in the mission of the pure devotee spiritual master, the result of hearing the Rasa Leela is that one becomes completely free from material desire and becomes a very intense missionary oneself. So therefore, such things are not to be spoken of freely, and if at all, if ever, if there's even a proper time or place to do so. And we see in the case of Srila Prabhupada that he was tireless to present Krishna consciousness, what some so-called people say, who we have the more advanced thing, just the basic thing again and again and again. Swamiji was sent to this world to give sadhana bhakti, but if you want the real thing, you gotta come over here. That is a big subject matter, and to describe it would take us in a different direction. But suffice to say, using the colloquial term from today, it's a no-brainer that if someone can spread Krishna consciousness in such a huge way to all people in all different languages in all parts of the world and get everyone to chant Hare Krishna with great enthusiasm, isn't such a person on the highest level of devotional service? And if one's on the highest level of devotional service, he can teach the highest level, and he can also teach, now I know my ABCs, won't my mommy be so proud of me? He can teach on the elementary level. He can teach on all levels, but the teaching and imparting, to matter whether it's a little baby goo goo gaga who can only drink apple sauce, or a full-grown teenager who can eat like 3 or 4 pizzas or whatever, a huge feast. The cooking and distributing the food, the mother, the guardian, the caregiver is just happy that their ward is being nourished and taking what accord to their position. The teaching is the same. Not that if it's a very high teaching, then I feel very good. And if I just have to teach very small, then it's like, then I'm so smart and you're so stupid, why do I have to? No, the teaching is one. There's a very nice verse earlier in this canto, in the 4th chapter, The Process of Creation. It's an easy verse to remember by numerology, 2-4-24. 2 and a 4 is a 24, and verse 24, so you can say 24-24 to remember. It's similar. It's Shukadeva Goswami speaking this. This is later in the chapter of which contains at the beginning prayers for its invoking Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by Shukadeva Goswami, which we have Srila Prabhupada chanting in his room on 72nd Street in the winter of 65-66. Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papur Jnanamayam Somya Yan Mukam Bur Hasavam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. So in this purport, Prabhupada is more liberal and enthusiastic about presenting the topmost revelation of the conjugal love of God. He's quoting the different great acharyas, Sridhar Swami, Jiva Goswami, ultimately to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. So we should be very enthusiastic to advance our purification so we can actually understand. This urge to understand and relish the pastimes of Radha and Krishna is quite to the point. And actually we glorify the topmost personality, the pure devotee. He's aspiring to relish these at every moment, and we glorify him for such. Sri Vigrahara Nana Nityananda, the spiritual master, the pure devotee, is engaging his disciples in the Shringar of the Sri Vigraha, dressing, beautiful clothes and ornaments. What is the meditation? To make the deities beautiful so the devotees will be attractive, and that Krishna, seeing the devotees attractive to him because he is so beautiful, he will become attracted more to his devotees. Because when we exhibiting intense feelings of devotion for Krishna, that manifests automatically Sarupya Mukti, beautiful bodily form with costly jewelry and dress, and all things which are relished and attractive by the Lord, as Prabhupada goes on to mention here. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane. So, the Sahajiyas, the so-called Kirtaniyas with beautiful singing voices and all kinds of dramatic, showy kind of talents and things. So we don't want that in devotional service in our kirtan. So we think, okay, so there should be no nice musical instrument playing, and there should be no nice singing. It should just be very coarse and just this way, and just like one size fits all. And if anybody exhibits any talent, then that this is Maya. We don't want to go to that extreme also. Krishna, he's the most elevated artistic connoisseur. What is it? In the Yasomati Nanda, he exists on the highest level of artistic craftsmanship. What's the verse in the Yasomati Nanda? Vamsi Vadana Suvasa, I think. Anyway, because such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane, because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as para, or transcendental. This transcendental knowledge is unknown to the forgotten conditioned soul. So we're saying transcendental knowledge. I remember reading the first time Bhagavad Gita, I'm 19 years old, chapter 4, transcendental knowledge. Wow. And what does chapter 4 begin? The disciplic succession. Evam Parapara Pramtam, I imparted this knowledge to the sun god millions of years ago. Approach a spiritual master. This is all, especially when you're a new person, this is very weighty, and this is very momentous, and this is very absolutely life-centering for the rest of your life, and I'm reading this for the first time. So what does that transcendental knowledge ultimately evolve to? Srila Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of the Lord, thus compiled the Vedic literatures to revive the lost memory of the conditioned soul. Enter into the realm of the 10th canto, the smiling face of the Lord. That is the ultimate goal. One should therefore try to understand the Vedic scriptures, or the nectar transferred by the Lord to his consorts in the conjugal humor from the lotus-like mouth of Vyasadeva or Shukadeva, by gradual development of transcendental knowledge, and again, passing one's life in the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the six Goswamis, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Prabhupada, pass one's life in that way. That will elevate you properly, not jumping up like a monkey, to the stage of the transcendental arts of music and dance displayed by the Lord in his Rasa Leela. But without having the Vedic knowledge, just trying to understand, oh yeah, I can go and watch a movie, about like a boy and girl having a romance, and that'll help me to understand, Radha and Krishna, right? Right? Oh, this is a good movie. It'll help you to understand Krishna consciousness, right? This is how Sahajiyism infiltrates into the devotee society. We casual, take it easy, too strict. The pure devotees of the Lord, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of the profound philosophical discourses and in the form of kissing by the Lord in the rasa dance, as there is no mundane distinction between the two. Topics like the Rasa Leela are meant for the liberated souls and not for the conditioned souls. So, the conditioned souls therefore must hear with appreciation and devotion the Lord's pastimes in relationship with the external energy, and such acts are as good as hearing of the Rasa Leela in the liberated stage. By reading and hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as a scientific presentation, the conditioned souls will gradually be promoted to the higher status of transcendental knowledge, being freed from the illusory energy based on sense enjoyment. So we're before the divine couple, Shri Shri Radha Govinda. The supreme meditation is upon them. This automatically sets the mark or the target to the supreme point. So we follow Srila Prabhupada. He is the expert spiritual alchemist, mixing the medicine, and as the expert physician, he is giving us the proper dosage and proper frequency. From our side, we simply add enthusiasm, patience, confidence, and sincerity, and everything will be done perfectly. One of the opening verses to a chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita is very nice in this regard, by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. I am suffering all over due to boils of envy, and I'm being bitten all over by the worms of material desire and sense gratification. Falling in an ocean of humility, I take shelter of the great physician, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mayam varnayo musya ishvarasyanu modataha shrinvata shraya nityam maya yatma namuyati. The Lord's activities in association with his different energies should be described, appreciated, and heard in accordance with the teachings of the Supreme Lord. If this is done regularly with devotion and respect, one is sure to get out of the illusory energy of the Lord. Grantharaj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari.